In the previous session, so we are talking about stack operation. So how push and pop operation takes place and how the stack point is adjusted. Okay, so that is what we discussed in the previous session. So now we'll move on to the next special register, which is the link register. Okay, link register, which is R14. So R14 is also known as LR, which is known as link register. Okay, so either you can use you can call it as R14 or LR. Both are referred to the same register. So what is the use of LR? The LR is used to store return program counter. Okay, it is used to store return program counter when a subroutine or a function is called. Okay, when a subroutine or a function is called, so the link register will hold the return of the program counter. So what do you mean by this? I'll explain this using an example. Okay, so I'll take the main program. So main. Okay, so let's say inside your main, you are having the instruction. So instruction number 1. Okay, then instruction 2. Then instruction 3. Okay, so then instruction 4, like that. So you will have n number of instructions. Then let's say the last instruction you will have INST. Yeah. So then after this, you will end the main program. So this is your main program. Okay. So whatever you write, so those instructions will be executed in a sequential manner. That is one after the other. That is what will happen. Okay. So first instruction 1 will be executed, then instruction 2 will be executed, then instruction 3 will be executed, like that. Instruction n will be executed and the main program is complete. This is how you usually write the code. Okay. Same will hold for assembly coding also. So this instruction 1 can be any assembly code. So it can be move a comma b or add a comma b, multiply a comma b, like that. So all these are the instructions. This is the main program and your processor. Okay, your processor ARM Cortex M3 is executing these instructions one after the other in a sequential manner. Right. So what you will do? So let's say it has completed the execution of instruction 1. So then it has to go to instruction 2. Okay. So always remember PC, so which was R12. So if you remember, yesterday we discussed about a register known as R12. Okay, so you can see R12, sorry, R8 to R12. So these are general purpose registers. So this PC is R15. Okay, so this program counter is R15. So PC means program counter. Program counter. So if you remember, in 8051 also there was a program counter, and this program counter will always point. It will point to the address of next instruction. Next instruction that needs to be executed by the CPU. Next instruction that needs to be executed. Okay, so remember, so what will PC have? Where PC will point to? So PC will point to the address of the next instruction that needs to be executed. Okay, remember that. Okay, so let's say your CPU is currently executing instruction 1. So it is executing. It is in the process of executing instruction 1. Okay, so where will PC point then? Where will PC point according to the definition? Tell me. Where will PC point? So what is the use of PC? What is the use of PC?
The next instruction.
Yeah, it will always point to the next instruction that needs to be executed. Correct? Huh? So now I am telling the CPU is executing instruction number 1. Okay, it is in the process of executing instruction number 1. So where should be PC pointing to? Where should PC point to? Yes?
Second instruction.
Yeah, it has to point to the second instruction. Correct? second instruction. Okay. So see, besides the instructions, I am writing the addresses of the instructions. Okay. These are the addresses where these instructions are stored. Okay. Instruction 1 is stored in this location 000. Instruction 2 is stored in location 000. So since now the Cortex M3 processor is executing instruction 1, so PC should point to instruction 2. So PC should point here. Correct? Huh? Because this is the next instruction that needs to be executed after completing instruction 1. Are you following this? Yes? Yes or no? Okay. Now let's say instruction 1 execution is completed. So since PC is pointing to the address 0001, so the Cortex M3 understands that. So this is the next instruction that needs to be executed, which is pointed by PC. So hence now execution of instruction 2 will start. Okay, execution of instruction 2 will start. Okay, so now where should PC point?
Instruction.
Where?
Third instruction.
Yeah, so it should point to the next instruction, which is the third instruction, instruction 3. So new PC will be updated. So previous PC contents were 0001. Now the new PC contents are updated as 0010 because this is the next instruction that needs to be executed. Hope you are getting this, how the PC contents are adjusted. Okay, whenever the next instruction is executed. Fine. Now, let's say the Cortex M3 is executing instruction 2. Okay, and it has completed instruction 2. Okay, we shall assume that instruction 2 execution is completed. So now it is about to switch to execute instruction 3. Okay, it is about to switch to execute instruction 3, but in this duration, let's say an interrupt takes place. So an interrupt takes place. Okay, so when I am talking about this, so whenever instruction 2 execution is complete and the processor of the Cortex M3 processor is about to switch to execute instruction 3, okay, it is about to execute instruction 3, an interrupt takes place. Okay, so as soon as an interrupt takes place, so you should invoke what is known as an ISR. Okay, what do you mean by ISR? Can anyone tell me? Can anyone remember what is ISR full form? We already studied this. The ISR stands for
Interrupt service routine.
Yeah, correct, exactly. So it stands for interrupt service routine. Okay, so ISR is nothing but interrupt service routine, which is nothing but it's a subroutine. You can simply call it as a subroutine, where subroutine means it is a function. Okay, it is a function. So subroutine function. Okay, both are same. So it is a subroutine or a function which should be executed or which should be invoked whenever an interrupt takes place. Okay, see, suppose there are two interrupts in your system. So let's say the interrupt are interrupt 1 and interrupt 2. There are two interrupts in your system. So correspondingly, there will be two ISRs. So there will be ISR 1 and there will be ISR 2 also. So what will happen whenever interrupt 1 takes place in your system, ISR 1 should be executed. So what is ISR 1? It is nothing but the function or subroutine, okay, which will take care of interrupt 1 or which will service interrupt 1. Okay. So let's say what is interrupt 1? Let's say it is a switch press. Okay. So interrupt 1 is a switch press. That is what is the assumption. Let's say interrupt 1 is nothing but switch press. Okay, switch pressed. Okay, so what should happen when a switch is pressed? So according to your application, whenever a switch is pressed, let's say a buzzer should be on. A buzzer should sound. Okay, that is what is your application. Let's assume that whenever you press the switch, a buzzer should turn on. That is the application. So you press the switch. The interrupt 1 has taken place. Since interrupt 1 has taken place, so ISR 1 will be invoked because ISR 1 is the function or subroutine that needs to be executed whenever interrupt 1 takes place. Okay? So what this ISR1 will contain then? It will contain the instructions, okay, which will turn on the buzzer. Which will turn on the buzzer. So it will contain some instruction which will turn on the buzzer. That's all. Okay. So as soon as you turn on the buzzer, so the ISR1 job is completed. Okay, the ISR1, the interrupt service routine 1 job is completed. So once the job is completed, you have to go back to whatever you were previously doing before the interrupt took place. Okay, before the interrupt took place, whatever you were doing, you have to go back to do that after completing the execution of ISR1. Okay, see, it is as simple as, let's say you are studying for your examination. So let's say some subject you are studying the notes, right? So let's say you are in page number 3, you are studying that notes. Okay, you are in page number 3. So whenever you're studying page number 3, let's say you get a call from your friend. Okay, what you will do? You will attend the call. Attend the call. So getting the call is the interrupt. This is the interrupt, and attending the call is the ISR for that particular interrupt. Okay, it is the interrupt service routine. So once you attend the call and you are finished, what you have to do? So once you you can say disconnect the call, you have to go back to whatever you were doing previously before getting the call. Okay, what you are doing? You are studying page number 3. You have to go back to page number 3 and you have to continue from wherever you are studying. Correct. So this is what should happen, and same case will happen in processor also. Okay. So whenever the processor is doing some job, if an interrupt takes place, so it will execute that ISR corresponding to the interrupt, and once that ISR completes, it will go back to whatever it was doing previously before the interrupt came. So that is what will happen here also. So the scenario here was, so you just completed execution of instruction 2, that is the processor completed the execution of instruction 2. So it has to next execute instruction 3 because that is where the PC value is pointing to. PC is value is pointing to 0010, which is pointing to the instruction 3. So that is where it has to go and execute the next instruction. But before it starts the execution of instruction 3, let's say the interrupt takes place. That is what is the scenario. So as soon as the interrupt takes place, the ISR corresponding to that interrupt will start executing. Okay, but before executing the ISR, before executing that ISR, what will happen is, first you have to store this value. You have to store this value, that is 0010. Why you have to store this value? Because once you complete the ISR, complete the execution of the ISR corresponding to the interrupt that has come. Once you complete it, you have to go back to the point where you had left, okay, before the interrupt came, because you have to continue the execution from there, correct? So let's say this is the ISR. So again, some instructions will be there here. So ISR instruction 1, so ISR instruction 2, so ISR instruction 3. Okay, so after these 3 instructions complete, where you have to go? You have to go back here because you had stopped here. Okay, so instead of stop, you say stop. You had paused here. The execution was paused here. So once you service this ISR or complete this ISR, you have to go back to instruction 3. Okay, you have to go back to instruction 3 because you have to continue the execution. So how will you go back to instruction 3? By saving this address. So saving the address of PC. Okay, so where will you save the address of PC? So that is when R14, which is nothing but the link register, will help you. Okay, so before entering the ISR here, before entering the ISR or starting executing the ISR, what you will do is you will store the value of PC to link register. So link register will be having the value of PC. Okay, you will having the value of PC. So that whenever you store the value of PC into link register, once you complete the ISR, Okay, you can use this link register value to go back to wherever you had left. Okay, to go back to the point wherever you had paused the execution, and you can continue the execution. Okay, so this is the concept of link register, or the use of link register. So link register will always hold the value of PC, okay, the return address of the PC after completion of a function or a subroutine. Okay, so hope you got the concept. Okay, so see here. So now we'll go through this once again. So here, LR link register is used to store the return program counter. So that is what we did using that example. Okay, because you have to complete the ISR and you have to return back from wherever you had left. So how will you return? Using the value in the link register, because link register always stores the return program counter when a subroutine or a function is called. Okay, so this is the subroutine or a function which is the ISR. Whenever it is called, this PC value, okay, the PC value will be automatically stored to link register. Okay, you need not store it; it will be automatically done. Okay, by the Cortex M3 processor. Okay, but if it was a case of 8051 controller, this process has to be done by the programmer. That is storing the value of PC somewhere so that it can be retrieved later. So usually this PC value will be stored to stack there. In 8051, PC values will be pushed to stack so that it can be later retrieved. But here in Cortex M3, there is a dedicated register known as link register, which will hold the return address of the PC whenever a subroutine or a function is called. And this process will take place automatically. Okay, you need not do it; it will take place automatically whenever a subroutine or a function is called. Okay, so the same thing is explained here. You can see here. So you are in main function. You are executing the main function instruction. So let's say you encounter a function call. So BL function means it is a function call. Okay. So then what you doing? So call function one using branch and link instructions. So BL means branch and link. So you're calling a function. So what will happen? So whenever a function call will take place, so you share link register value will be stored with the next instruction in main. Okay, so whichever the next instruction here, because after completion of this function, you have to come back to this point here. Okay, so this is the address. Let's say some address will be there 110. This address will be saved into link register. Okay, so what will happen after completion of the function one? You will come back to the main program using link register. So BX link register means it is branch with extend link register. We shall talk about the instructions later, but for timing, remember link register will hold the return address of the program counter. Okay, this is the use of link register, which is also known as R14. Fine. So next we'll move on to the next special function register, which is known as program counter PC. Okay, so we just talked about PC. Okay, and how PC will be used. So the program counter is the current program address. This register can be written to control the program flow. Okay. You can access it in assembler code either using R15 or PC. Okay, so that is what we talked about. What is the use of PC? So PC will always hold the current program address, means it will always point to the next instruction that needs to be executed. Okay, so this register can be written to control the program flow. So what do you mean by that? This register, that is PC, can be written in order to control the program flow. What do you mean by that is? So let's say I'll give one more example. Main. So instruction 1, so instruction 2, instruction 3, instruction 4, okay, instruction 5, instruction 6, let's say. Okay, so I'll assign the addresses for the instructions 0x0000. This is the address of instruction 1, 0x0001, 0x0010, 0x0011, 0x00, sorry, 100, 0x 0101. These are the addresses of the instruction. Okay. So now let's say the Cortex M3 processor is executing instruction 1. It is executing instruction 1. So can someone tell me what should be the value of PC? Which is also known as R50. What should be the value of PC then? See, the processor is executing instruction 1. Okay. So I'm asking you what should be the value of PC?
0001.
Yeah, it will be 0x0001. That is the next instruction that needs to be executed. Correct? Now, after completing instruction 1, okay, so the processor will consult PC. So PC value is 0001. That means, so the processor will come to, it will understand that the next instruction it has to execute is in this address. Okay, so it will go to this address. So if it goes to this address, what is there in that address? Instruction 2. So it will start to execute instruction 2 now. Okay, it will start to execute instruction 2. So now what should be the new PC value? What should be the new PC value?
0x0010.
Yeah, 0x0010, because instruction 3 is the next instruction that is there in the order, because it is sequential execution we are talking about. Correct? So new PC value or R15 value will be 0x0010. That is the next instruction that needs to be executed after completing the present instruction. Okay. So now I'll come to this statement. See, you can control the program flow by writing to register R15 or PC. Okay, by writing to the register R15 or PC. So what do you mean by that is, see, since the new PC values are new PC value is 0x0010, that means after completing instruction 2, the processor will execute instruction 3. That is the current scenario. Okay. Now let's say I want to change this scenario. Okay. After completing instruction 2, okay, the processor should not execute instruction 3. Let's say I want to execute instruction 5. Okay, after completing instruction 2, I want to jump instruction 3 and 4 and I want to execute instruction 5. Okay, so how will I do that? How will I do that? I will write new value to the PC or R50. Okay, I'll write a new value to the PC. So what I'll do is I'll update the PC value. I'll force a new value to PC, which is nothing but R15. Okay, so I'll update that value. So how will I update? So what is the instruction I need to execute after instruction 2? It is instruction 5. So what is the address of instruction 5? It is 0x0100. So I will write, okay, I will write 0x0100 into the register PC or R15. I'll write this. So how will I write this? Using an instruction. Okay, so let's say that instruction is MSR. Okay, so let's say it is MSR 0x0100, comma PC. So we shall talk about MSR later. Okay, but just I mean, remember that I am writing into the register PC using this instruction, and what I am writing into PC, this is the value, immediate value, 0x0100. I'll write this to the PC. So what will happen? Previously PC had 0x0010. This value will be overwritten by this value. So the new PC value will be 0x0100. So now what will happen? So after completing instruction 2, so the Cortex M3 processor will consult the PC. So once it will consult the PC, it will come to know that the next instruction it has to execute is in the address 0x0100. So hence, from here, it will directly jump to this instruction. Okay, it will not execute 3 and 4. These will be skipped. Okay, so this is what you mean by controlling the program flow. So you can control the program flow. So you can skip certain instructions by writing a particular value to the PC. Okay, that is what you mean by writing into the PC to control the program flow. Okay. Yeah. The next thing, see, because of pipelined nature of Cortex M3 processor, when this register is read, the value is different than the location of the executing instruction, normally by 2 or 4 bytes. Okay, normally by 2 or 4 bytes. So what do you mean by this is? So hope you know what is pipelining. Anyone knows what is pipelining? Instruction pipeline. Don't know?
Compilation and execution takes place simultaneously.
Okay. See, pipelining concept is dependent on the execution of instruction. Okay, so to execute any instruction, so I told this in the previous class, there are 3 phases there. First is instruction fetch. Okay. Next is instruction decode. Next is instruction execute. These are the 3 cycles or 3 phases. Okay. So this is fetch 1, let's say decode 1, and execute 1. So let's say instruction 1 is fetched, then instruction 1 will be decoded, and instruction 1 will be executed. Okay. So this cycle, whatever this process, can be multiplexed. Okay, or simultaneous fetches can be done. So how this will happen is here. Whenever the first instruction is fetched, okay, and whenever the first instruction is being decoded, this fetch cycle will be empty. Okay, it is not doing any job. Okay, because the present instruction is being decoded. So this cycle here, the fetch cycle or the fetch hardware. Okay, so if you remember in the Cortex M3 simplified view, we saw that there was a separate hardware known as instruction fetch unit. Okay, so whenever the current instruction is being decoded, the instruction fetch unit is having no job, or it is idle. Okay, so see, to have maximum efficiency, okay, to get maximum efficiency, you should not leave any hardware idle. Any hardware should not be left idle to achieve maximum efficiency. So since this fetch unit is having no job whenever the current instruction is being decoded, so what will happen is, at the same time, the next instruction will be fetched. FETCH2 will happen. Okay, so when the present instruction is being decoded, the next instruction is already being fetched. Okay, next what will happen? When the present instruction is being executed, so the next instruction will already be decoding. Decode 2. Okay, so like this, multiplexing will happen or simultaneous execution will happen, wherein you are saving time. Okay, so after execution of first instruction completes, immediately execution of the second instruction will take place. Why? Because already the second instruction is fetched and decoded. It is already ready. So directly it will go for execution. So what will happen if you don't multiplex this? So then what will happen is, you have to again start with fetch 2, execute 2, and then decode 2. Okay, so that is a waste of time. So what will happen here is, fetch 1. So whenever decode 1 is happening, fetch 2 is already happened. Okay, and whenever execute 1 is happening, decode 2 is already done. Okay, so this is what you mean by pipeline. Okay, pipeline. So that is why. So since this is the nature of pipelining that is available in Cortex M3 also. Okay, so suppose you are executing instruction 3. Okay, you are executing instruction 3. Currently executing instruction 3, which is in the location 0100. So the next location will be 0101. So this will be instruction 4. Okay. So at this particular point of time, when you are still executing instruction 3, so already the PC will be pointing to the next instruction. Okay. Why? Because see, you are executing instruction. I can say you can take it as instruction 1, and this is 2. So since we are executing instruction 1, okay, the PC is already pointing to the next instruction. Why? Because during execution for the first instruction, already the second instruction is decoded. It is already fetched and decoded. Hence, it is pointing to the next location. Okay, it is pointing to the next location. That is what is discussed here. Okay, so see here, if the present instruction that is being executed is move R0, PC, which is in the address 0x000, 0x1000. So if you see the value of PC at this particular point of time, it will not be equal to 1000. It will already be equal to 1004. That is, it is already pointing to the next instruction. Okay. See here, it is the increment by 4. So the previous address you can see it is 1000. The next address is already 1004. Okay, it is increment by 4, not by 1. Why? Because as I told, the instruction set that the ARM Cortex M3 supports is thumb 2. So thumb 2, so it has 32-bit instructions or it has 16-bit instructions. Okay, so let's assume that it is having 32-bit instructions. Then what will happen? In order to store 32 bits of data, you require 4 locations. Okay, so then if this is the current location, this is the instruction that is being currently executed. Okay, move R0, PC. So this instruction move R0, PC. So how many bits is this? It is totally 32 bits in size. So to represent move R0, PC, you totally require 32 bits of size. So since you require 32 bits of size, so in your memory, so one location can hold only 8 bits. Okay, one location can hold only 8 bits. Okay, so hence, in order to store move R0, PC, which is a 32-bit instruction, you require 4 locations. Which are those 4 locations? It is starting from 0x1000. So next is 0001. Okay, so next is 0x1010. Next is 0x1011. So these are the 4 locations which are used to store. So what is the instruction? Complete instruction is move R0, PC. So 4 locations are required to store this instruction, which is 32-bit, because in Cortex M3 the instructions are either 32-bit or 16-bit. So we have assumed that the instruction is 32-bit. Okay, so 4 locations are done. So which is the next location then? It is 0x 1100. Okay, 0x1100. That means, so what is the next? Where is the next instruction then? 0x1100. This is the next instruction, which can be, let's say, move again R1, PC. So next instruction will be stored in this location, 0100. Getting what I'm saying? 0100. Okay. Any doubts here? So PC value, if you check whenever the instruction move R0, PC is being executed, if you check the value of PC, so PC value will be equal to, according to this example, it will be equal to 0x1100. Okay, because it is already pointing to the next instruction because of the pipelining nature. Okay, because of the pipelining nature. And this. Yeah. So writing to PC will cause the branch. We saw that. Okay. I gave an example of skipping instruction 3 and 4 and directly go to instruction 5. Okay, so that is what will happen. Because an instruction address must be half word aligned, don't worry about this, we shall discuss this about later. But one more thing you have to see here, writing to PC, LR will not be updated automatically. Okay, what do you mean by this? If you write to PC, LR, that is link register, will not be updated. That means here, so I'll go back to this instruction wherein, so you were executing instruction 2. So once you are executing instruction 2, you jump to instruction 5 directly by writing to the PC. Correct? By writing to the PC, so what is the value of PC you return? 0x0100. So you directly jump to this address. Okay. So whenever you write to PC forcefully, okay, whenever you write to PC forcefully, that is, this is forceful writing of PC by using this instruction. Link register values will not be updated. So link register values will be automatically updated only when an ISR is called, or a function is called, or a subroutine is called. Okay, so automatic updation of link register will take place only if these will happen. ISR is called, or a function is called, or a subroutine is called. But if you forcefully write to a PC or update the value of PCs, the link register value will not be directly updated or automatically updated. Okay, so remember this. Link register will only be updated automatically whenever it's a function call or an interrupt service routine or a subroutine is called. Right? So this is about R15 or the link register. So this is about the total registers R0 to R15, totally 16 registers. After this, there are special registers. Along with these 16 registers, there are also special registers. Which are those? First special register is program status register. So I told that this PSR will have the flags. Okay, it will have the flags. So 8051 also had a status register. Okay, which will hold the values of flags like 0 flag, carry flag, okay, negative flag, overflow flag, like that. So here also there is a register which will hold that value. Next special register is interrupt mask register, which is prime mask, fault mask, and base spec. So there are 3 interrupt mask registers. I gave an example yesterday for masking the interrupts. Okay, we will discuss in depth whenever we talk about this. Okay, and next, the third important control register, important special register is control register. This control register, as I told yesterday, it will control the use of the stacks. Okay, because there are 2 stacks: main stack and process stack. In order to switch between the main stack and the process stack, control register is used. So along with that, control register is also used to switch between, or it is also used to give access. Okay, give access to some special function registers. Okay, we shall see that later. What is the other use of control register? Okay, for timing, just remember control register is used to switch between the stacks, main stack and the process. Yeah, so and in order to access these special registers, okay, special function registers, you should do the access only using special instructions. Okay, so which are those special instructions? One is MSR and one more is MRS. Okay, what are these? Let's see. The MRS means it is read from special register. It is read from special register. You can see the syntax here. It is MRS followed by the general purpose register. Okay, followed by the special register you want to read or you want to access. So I'll give an example. So it is MRS, okay, R0, comma, PC. So what do you mean by this? So you are trying to access the special register PC. Okay, you want to access special register PC, or let's say I'll instead of PC, I'll take it as special register PSR. So let's say it is X PSR. So I'll talk about X later. For timing, just consider PSR. So I'm trying to access which register? PSR, Program Status Register. To access Program Status Register, since it is a special function register, I cannot use normal instructions to access this register or to read the contents of this register. So I require a special instruction for that. So what is the special instruction? MRS. The MRS stands for Read from Special Register. Okay, read from special register. What will happen here is the contents of the PSR will be copied to the register R0. So this is what you mean by read a special register. Okay, it is read from a special register. The next instruction, special instruction is MSR. So what is the syntax for that? Special register, comma register. It is write to special register. That is, you want to update the value of a special register or you want to write to a special register, then you have to use MSR. Okay, so what is the syntax? So MSR. Okay, so let's say it is X PSR, comma R1. So what will happen here? It is a write to special register. Which is a special register? PSR, Program Status Register. So you want to write some data to this register. So how will you do that? Using the instruction MSR. Okay, MSR means write to special register. So now what will happen is the contents of R1 will be copied or written to the special register PSR. The contents of R1 will be written to PSR. Okay, so these are the two special instructions that are used to access special registers like PSR, try mask, fault mask, base pry, or the control register. Okay. Yeah. So now we'll see what is this. What are the special registers and what are their operations? What are the use of these special registers? Okay. The special registers and their functions. Yeah. X PSR. Okay. X. Why it is X? We shall see that later. For time being, remember PSR. PSR stands for Program Status Register. So what it will hold? It will hold or it will provide arithmetic and logical processing flags. So what are those flags? Zero flag and carry flag. So like that, negative flag, overflow flag will also be there. So we shall see those flags later. Along with that, it will also give the execution status and current executing interrupt number. So all these are included in PSR. Okay. So what will have? It will have flags. It will have execution status, and it will also have current executing interrupt number. Okay. So we shall see that. What are these? What do these mean? Okay. Yeah. So this program status register, okay, it is divided again. It is subdivided into 3 registers. Okay. So this program status register is divided into 3 registers. And remember, I told this all the registers are of 32 bits. This program status register is also of 32 bits. Okay, so these 32 bits will be subdivided into 3 registers again. So what are those? First one is application program status register, APSR. Next is interrupt program status register, IPSR. And the third one is execution program status register, EPSR. Okay. So as the name itself indicate, okay, you can easily see here application program status register means it will give you the flags. So APSR will contain the flags. Okay, so flags like zero flag, negative flag, auxiliary flag, like that. Okay, interrupt program status register, it will contain or it will give the information about which is the present interrupt that is currently executing. Okay, the number of interrupt that is currently being processed. The number of interrupt that is being processed. Okay, because there can be more than one interrupts. Okay, so for example, this ARM Cortex M3 it can support up to 256 interrupts. Okay, it can support up to 256 interrupts. So for each interrupt, there is a number because you have to classify between the interrupts, right? You have to differentiate between the interrupts. That is why the number is given for every interrupt. So which is the interrupt that is currently executing? What is the number? So where you will find that? In the IPSR. So if you access the IPSR, you will directly come to know which is the current interrupt that is being serviced. Okay. And next comes the execution PSR. It will give the execution status. So we shall see what is the execution status later. This will give you the execution status. Okay. So the three PSRs can be accessed together. Okay, so there is an option here. If you want to access all the three registers simultaneously, that is APSR, IPSR, and EPSR, that can also be done. Okay, or you can also separately access the special registers using MSR and MRS. Okay, so separate access is also there, or combined access is also there. Okay. See, when they are accessed combined or together, you should access it as XPSR. Now you came to know why X is used. The X means the PSR is being accessed collectively or combined, or it is accessed together. All the three registers, APSR, IPSR, and EPSR, are being accessed combinedly. So that is why X is used. Okay. So whenever it is XPSR, that means you are accessing all the three PSRs simultaneously. Okay. So the PSRs can be read using MRS. We know that because MRS means read from special register. Okay. You can also change APSR using MSR. So change means you can write a value to APSR. You can write a new value to APSR application program status register. But here there's a catch. You cannot write the values to EPSR and IPSR. So both these EPSR, execution PSR, and interrupt PSRs are only read only. They are read only. Okay, so you cannot write to EPSR and IPSR. You can only write to APS. Okay, so if you want to classify, so now APSR, application program status register, you can either read it or you can either write it. Okay, but EPSR and IPSR, they can, so these two are only, or they can only be read. No write is allowed. No write operation is allowed. Okay. So there is an example here. So what is this? MRS R0, APSR. So what is happening here? First thing, check this. MRS. What do you mean by MRS? It is read from special register. So you're trying to read a special register to a general purpose register. Okay. So which is the special purpose register you are trying to read? APSR. That is application program status register. So you are trying to read the contents of APSR to a general purpose register R0. So read flag state into R0. That is what is happening. Next instruction is MRS. So again it is read from special register. IPSR. So it is interrupt program status register. You are trying to read the contents to R0. So read interrupt state to R0. Next instruction is MRS again. So it is read from special register. EPSR, execution program status register to R0. Okay. And the last instruction you can see is MSR. The MSR is write to special register. So what is the syntax? So first you have to write the special register and then you have to write the general purpose register. Okay. So it is from the, so you are writing the contents of R0 or you are transferring the contents of R0 to APSR. So remember, APSR is read as well as write. Both are allowed. So that is why you're trying to write something to APSR. But you cannot write to EPSR and IPSR. Okay. So now see this diagram here. So this diagram clearly shows the split up of PSR into three PSRs. So APSR, so what are the flags it will have? Negative flag, zero flag, carry flag. So this V is overflow flag. Q stands for sticky saturation. Okay, we shall see what is Q later. For timing, just remember it is sticky saturation. Okay, so these are the flags that are available in APS. and the bits are also given here. The bit number 31, 30, 29, 28, 27. So these bits are APSR bits, and you can see it is a 32-bit register starting from 0 to 31, totally 32 bits. Okay. So next is IPSR. So IPSR is interrupt program status register. So what is the range of IPSR? It is from 0 to 8. Okay. From bit number 0 to bit number 8, totally 9 bits. Okay. And what it will have? It will give you the exception number or the interrupt number. Whichever interrupt has taken place now and whichever interrupt is being currently processed for service, that number is available here. Let's say you are servicing interrupt number 20, so then this exception number here, it will be equal to 20. Okay. Next is EPSR. EPSR. So EPSR is execution program status register. So what it will have is, it will have two types of information. One is ICI/IT. See, ICI means interrupt continuable instruction. ICI. IT means if then instruction. So we shall see what is if then instruction later. Timing, remember, it will give the information regarding interrupt continuable instruction or IT, which is if then instruction, and also it will give you the T state. T means thumb state. Okay, thumb state. T means. See, T means it will give you whether the processor is in ARM state or thumb state. Okay, that is what is the T stands for. Okay, so collectively, this is how the PSR looks. Okay, if you take collective PSRs, that is, if you combine all the three PSRs, this is how the PSR will look. Okay. Yes, you see, what is N negative, Z is zero flag, C is carry or borrow flag, P is overflow, Q is sticky saturation. Okay, so ICI is interrupt continuable instruction. The IT is if then instruction. T is thumb state. So always one. Okay, it is always one in Cortex M3 because Cortex M3 there is no ARM state, only thumb state. So Cortex M3 only supports thumb state. There is no state switching to ARM. Only thumb. So hence T will always be one. Okay, and exception number will give you indicates exception the processor is currently handling. Okay. So again, MRS and MSR are used to access PSR and collectively. So PSR is collectively accessed. You can access it as XPSR. Okay, like this. Okay. I'll take the attendance.